용어를 알면 경제가 보인다. 영어로 경제기사 읽자.
Econ Lounge.
The more you know, the more you can appreciate. 오늘은 어떤 경제 용어를 배우게 될지 기대해 보면서 첫 번째 경제기사 바로 만나보겠습니다. Here is our first economic story.
More married women in Korea are joining or returning to the workforce as the cost of living continues to rise and single incomes are no longer enough. The labor force participation rate of married women with children has reached a record high, while career breaks due to childbirth or child care have dropped to their lowest level.
생활비 부담이 커지면서 한 사람 소득만으로는 어려워지자 기혼 여성들의 취업과 경력 복귀가 크게 늘고 있습니다. 특히 자녀가 있는 기혼 여성의 경제활동 참가율은 사상 최고치를 기록했고 출산과 육아로 인한 경력 단절은 역대 가장 낮은 수준으로 떨어졌습니다.
As a result, dual income households are becoming the norm for families trying to manage living, childcare, and education expenses.
이제 생활비와 육아, 교육비를 감당해야 하는 가정에서는 맞벌이가 사실상 당연한 선택이 되어가고 있습니다. 네, 지난 11월 20일에 나온 경제기사입니다. 고물가와 자녀 교육비에 대한 부담이 커지면서 워킹맘 그리고 맞벌이 가정이 늘어난다는 내용이었습니다.
Right, so this is recent data that was released by the National Data Office. So about 15% of married women left the workforce in the first half of this year, which doesn't sound like that much, but that's down by 110,000 from a year earlier.
Okay.
So that's the lowest level since statistics were first recorded.
최근 국가데이터처가 발표한 자료에 따르면 올해 상반기 기혼 여성 중 약 15%, 약 111만 명이 일을 그만둔 상태인데 이는 작년보다 11만 명이 줄어든 것으로 통계 작성 이래 가장 낮은 수준이었습니다.
And of course, that's one big reason that is affecting the birth rate in Korea, just because people have to work so much to just stay alive and keep paying for their lives, right?
Right, but it's hard to spend enough time with your child.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or even have a kid in the first place.
Yeah.
Right.
it's very inexpensive.
The number of women with kids under 18 that are taking a career break is slightly higher at 21%, but still that's 1.4 percentage points lower than last year.
That's right. 하지만 이 중에서 18세 미만 자녀가 있는 경우만 따로 보면은 경력 단절 비율은 15%가 아니라 21%로 올라갑니다.
네. So the overall employment rate for married women climbed to around 67%, and that has continued to climb over the past while, over the past years. As a country develops, usually that's regular, and so that's still actually lower than about 10 percentage points lower than other advanced economies like Japan or the UK or Germany.
That's right. 반대로 기혼 여성의 전체 고용률을 보면요. 67%대로 상승했는데 그래도 일본, 영국, 독일 등 선진국에 비해서는 아직 약 10%포인트 낮은 수치입니다.
Right? Still the highest yet for Korea, though, right?
Yeah, which is great news. Right. Assuming that these people are wanting to return to
Sure.
work, doing it out of volition.
Right. In some ways it's good, but there does have to be that life-work balance so people can have enough time to make a family, right?
Yeah, and you need that extra free time to have a good family atmosphere.
Absolutely. To be able
If both of you are stressed out, then it's not that good.
And your kids are only little for a short amount of time. You know, if you're working the whole time, you miss it. And I think it's something that a lot of people regret as they get older.
Yeah, that they worked too much and didn't spend enough time with their family.
Right.
Okay, so we are talking about the high cost of living.
Right, which is something which appears in a lot of economic articles, especially lately because of the rate of inflation being so high around the world these days. So cost of living is pretty self-explanatory.
That's
How
right.
much you have to pay to stay alive,
That's
basically,
right.
for your housing, for your food, for your education, all the basics, just everything you need to pay for getting through the day.
생활비이죠. It can also be shortened to living costs.
Yeah,
means exactly the same thing.
right. A few different combinations there.
That's right. Labor force participation rate.
Right, the labor force, you could also call the workforce. That word also came out in the article as well. Basically, just the percentage of the working age population that's actually working, that's actually doing something. And then the opposite would be the ones that are unemployed, right?
That's right. But it does include people who are actively seeking for work as well. Labor force participation rate 경제 활동 참가율인데요. 여기서 경제 활동을 economic activity라고 하지 않고 노동력, 즉 근로를 뜻하는 labor force라고 했습니다. You can also say workforce, as Rich mentioned there.
Yeah.
이때 분자를 계산할 때 그 단순히 일하는 사람뿐만 아니라 지금은 일은 없지만 적극적으로 구직 중인 사람 또한 포함합니다.
Everyone who's trying to actively participate in
Yeah.
the economy.
That's right. Dual income households, 맞벌이 가구.
Yep, that's right. A household is just one house with a family or whoever lives in that one place. Dual is two. Income means how much money you earn. So some sort of a family unit or however your house is set up where both of the partners are earning money to bring into the house.
That's right. Dual income. 자, 그럼 방금 배운 경제 용어 기억하시면서 뉴스 다시 들어볼게요.
More married women in Korea are joining or returning to the workforce as the cost of living continues to rise and single incomes are no longer enough. The labor force participation rate of married women with children has reached a record high, while career breaks due to childbirth or child care have dropped to their lowest level. As a result, dual income households are becoming the norm for families trying to manage living, childcare, and education expenses.
All right, so that was our first article. It is now time for the Econ Pop Quiz.
According to the article, this has dropped to a record low. What is it when somebody temporarily leaves work because of childbirth or child care? Is it number one, coffee break, number two, career break, or number three, commercial break?
Of course, they can leave their work temporarily for other reasons as well, but in today's article, we're talking about childbirth and child care.
Yeah. One more time.
Yes, please.
According to the article, this has dropped to a record low. This has dropped. What do we call the period when someone temporarily leaves work due to childbirth or child care? Number one, a coffee break. Number two, a career break. Or number three, a commercial break.
문자샵 1045 반디 유튜브 댓글로 정답 보내주세요. 한 분께 커피 쿠폰 보내드리겠습니다. Now speaking of breaks, let's have a music break.
Music break. It's Aqua Cartoon Heroes.
EBS FM Evening Special Econ Lounge 함께하고 있습니다. It is time now to announce the quiz answer, but could we have the question once again?
Of course you can, because you asked so nicely. According to the article, this has dropped to a record low. What do you call the period when someone temporarily leaves work to give birth to a child or to take care of their children? And the answer was number two, a career break.
That's right. So the coffee mobile coupon goes to 3266님. 축하드립니다.
And it's kind of a big issue these days, not only in Korea, but around the world. Because, you know, when you leave your career to go and take care of your family, especially if you're a very career-oriented person, sometimes it can be very difficult to get back on track after you've taken a little bit of a break.
I mean, personally, I know friends who have actually given up on giving birth because they do not want to risk their career.
Right.
Or people who have delayed giving birth in their 20s, early 30s because their career was going up on a trajectory.
So there does have to be measures put in place to allow people to do that, because you need both. You need hardworking people, but you also need people as well.
That's right. People, full stop.
Exactly.
And if people aren't returning back to the workforce, even when they want to, you know, you are losing out on a lot of talent on a national level.
Of course, yeah.
All right, so with that done, let's check out the second economic story.
Eurozone growth stayed solid in November thanks to strong services sector activity, even though manufacturing weakened and external demand fell. Businesses faced rising input costs while struggling to raise their selling prices, which squeezed profit margins.
유로존 경제는 11월에도 서비스업의 견고한 성장에 힘입어 비교적 탄탄한 흐름을 이어갔습니다. 다만 제조업은 약세를 보였고 외부 수요는 줄어든 것으로 나타났습니다. 기업들은 원자재 등 투입 비용이 오르는 상황에서 판매 가격은 쉽게 올리지 못해 수익성이 압박을 받았다는 분석입니다.
Germany's economy slowed while Spain showed signs of stabilizing, and other Eurozone countries saw their strongest improvement in over a year.
국가별로 보면 독일 경제는 둔화한 반면 스페인은 안정세 조짐을 보였고 그 밖에 유로존 국가들은 1년 만에 가장 뚜렷한 개선세를 기록했습니다. 네, 지난 11월 11일에 나왔던 경제 뉴스였고 유로존의 경제 성장에 대한 내용이었습니다.
Of course, Europe, as has most of the world, has been struggling lately. So this is good news of a partial recovery. Of course, the manufacturing sector still weak, but Europe is so strong in services, the
Yes.
services sector, that it is likely to see growth in the fourth quarter.
That's right. I mean, just the tourism sector alone is a huge chunk of their services sector.
Absolutely, sure.
금융권에 따르면 11월 유로존의 경제는 전반적으로 안정적인 상태로 4분기에는 더 성장할 것으로 보입니다.
And of course, that's a very common situation for more advanced economies, less manufacturing and more services.
That's right.
The biggest services offered in Europe, of course, are tourism and hospitality. Then you would have finance and banking services as well. And then tech, basically, information and communication technology.
IT as well.
Right.
Okay. If we break it down, as you mentioned, manufacturing down, demand for exports outside of the Eurozone also decreased, but services sector went up. And that's what is driving this stability.
Right. So, talking about the flash services PMI for November, that's a preliminary estimate of the Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI.
We talked about this before.
We have talked about it before. I'm not sure if you remember, but it's basically a measure of how well companies are doing based on how much they're buying. So services sector PMI rose to about 53.1. That's the highest level in 18 months. So if the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index, is above 50, that means expansion,
Yep.
or then below 50 is contraction.
That's right. What if we had a look at the individual countries within the Eurozone?
So Spain did quite well. It accelerated to 0.6%, and then France 0.5%, but Germany and Italy were flat at 0%.
And we are, of course, talking about the GDP growth, aren't we, in the
Right.
third quarter?
So overall about 2.2% for the whole Eurozone.
Okay. 제조업 부문이나 경제존 수출 수요는 부진했지만 서비스업이 특히 흥행을 했는데요. If we break it down by country, 유럽연합 통계국에 따른 3분기 GDP 성장률을 보면 유로존 전체는 0.2%, 스페인과 프랑스는 각각 0.6, 0.5%, 반면 독일과 이탈리아는 0%로 제자리에 머물렀습니다.
Right.
Now, one term that you might be raising question marks about is external demand.
Right. We were talking about how external demand fell. So external, of course, means outside, right? So typically when you're talking about demand, external demand, it's for a nation's exports from other countries in the global market.
Right, yeah, exactly. But if we kind of zoom in, we can also apply this for a company, can't we?
Sure. Any goods or services, demand for those goods and services that are from outside a company.
That's right. External demand, 외부 수요인데요. 기업, 조직 혹은 국가 밖에서 발생하는 수요입니다. 그래서 이번 기사에서처럼 경제학에서는 보통 그 나라 또는 유로존처럼 어떤 한 경제 유닛의 수출품에 대한 해외 시장의 demand, 수요를 뜻합니다. External demand.
Right. And there could be lots of different reasons for that. Of course, the countries could be making it themselves or manufacturing falling, so there isn't as much to go around as well.
That's right. Or the cost could be prohibitively too high for there
Absolutely.
to be a high demand.
Yes, that certainly could be a problem because of rising input costs.
Yes. Input costs, 투입 비용 또는 원가.
How much you have to pay to make something, basically, or to run your business. So that includes all different things that you need to pay to make a business keep going. So raw materials, labor, you have to pay for your workforce.
Sure.
Energy, of course, you have to keep the lights on. And any kind of capital.
That's right. Even infrastructure for manufacturing as well.
Absolutely.
재화나 용역을 생산하는데 필요한 자원의 비용입니다. For example, 원자재비, 인건비, 에너지 비용, 설비 자본 비용 등이 포함됩니다.
네.
Input costs, 투입 비용. And profit margins, these are being squeezed right now in the Eurozone.
Right. Basically, that's a measure, the percentage of profit earned by a company in relation to its revenue. Basically, it shows how much profit the company makes for each dollar that they make.
오케이. 기업이 매출 대비 얼마나 이익을 남겼는지를 나타내는 비율인데 퍼센트로 표현을 합니다. As you mentioned, 매출 1달러당 얼마나 이익을 남겼나를 보여주고요. We call
Right.
it 이익률 수익성 비율.
Right. Because you pay the company, say, $1, they don't get to keep all of it because they've already spent a lot of it for
Yes.
all the expenses that we just mentioned, the input costs.
And the goal of many companies is to lower the input costs so that they can have a higher profit margin.
Maybe all of them, you could even say.
Yes. All right, so with those in mind, external demand, input costs, and profit margin, let's have a listen to the news once again. 뉴스 다시 들어보겠습니다.
Eurozone growth stayed solid in November thanks to strong services sector activity, even though manufacturing weakened and external demand fell. Businesses faced rising input costs while struggling to raise their selling prices, which squeezed profit margins. Germany's economy slowed while France showed signs of stabilizing, and other Eurozone countries saw their strongest improvement in over a year.
All right, so those were your two economic news articles and the related terms that went with it. With these in mind, let's do a quick recap, a quick review. 생활비는 해마다 오르고 있습니다.
The cost of living rises every year.
정책에 따라 경제 활동 참가율이 달라질 수 있습니다.
Policies can affect the labor force participation rate.
많은 가정이 이제 맞벌이를 합니다.
Many families are now dual income households.
그 회사는 해외 수요에 많이 의존해요.
The company relies on external demand.
신제품이 그들의 수익성을 높여줬습니다.
The new product boosted their profit margins.
Right, those were your economic terms for today. Let's have a look at some of the messages that came in. ST doesn't, Saint doesn't, perhaps. 두 분 항상 웃는 상이시라 라이브 보면 기분이 좋아져요.
좋네요.
Do you know what this means? 웃는 상?
Although we weren't laughing during that
Economic news.
that was pretty serious stuff. So let's go back to being
Friendly and bubbly.
Smiley Sam.
Yes, being smiley. All right, so that is a wrap for today's Econ Lounge. We'll be back after a song with the news teaser.
It's Ariana Grande, No Tears Left to Cry.